To get started on this project, download the baseball pitcher animate file and open it up in Adobe Animate. Also, if you're following along in the book, this project is outlined starting on page 88. Once you open this up in Adobe Animate, here's essentially what we're going to be doing. The project is going to give you the rough outline. You can see it has a hand switching out a baseball for a bomb. He winds up a pitch and the bomb explodes. Now if you go down to our timeline, there's two different folders to pay attention to. The first folder on the bottom is the rough animation folder. If you open it up, you can see all of the major keyframes for this animation. So this is going to take the guesswork out of the pacing and placement of all of the objects. What we want to focus on is the cleanup. So I'm going to close out our rough animation. We won't need that, but open up the cleanup folder. We'll start back over at frame number 1. Initially, I have all of the layers turned off for their visibility. So if you'll click on the very topmost eyeball icon, this will unhide all of those, and you can see the individual person. You can also see the little mystery arm off to the side. Now, none of this is already animated, so what we want to do is to go through one part at a time and match it up with the animation that's there. The final thing that I'll show you is if you check out your libraries panel, everything has already been created as far as its own symbol and animation part. What we're going to do now is take this and break this down one thing at a time, following along with the book in order to create your final animation. The first thing we're going to work on is that mystery arm. So I'm going to zoom into it. And I'm also going to go down to my layers and I'm going to hit the lock for the very topmost one to lock down everything except for that mystery arm. So I want to be able to work on this first top layer. If you go down to your timeline and scroll forward, you can see when we want the pacing for these first few frames to be. So you can see everything starts around frame 35. As it moves forward, it grabs the ball, moves back, and then replaces the ball, and then moves back into here. So in order to do this, you'll see that the arm itself moves and also the hand is a separate symbol. We want to rough in the movement of everything, then we'll go into that individual symbol and we'll animate the hand to time out with everything else. So the first thing we'll do is let's go through and place our rough keyframes. So for instance, the first one moves at keyframe number 40. We'll insert a keyframe there. Whoops. And let's move our hand into position for frame 40. From here, stepping forward, hitting the period key, you can see the next movement happens at frame 58. Insert a keyframe at 58, and then rotate it up into place. Repeat this process for all of the major keyframes for the movement of the hand as it swaps out the ball. Alright, with this done, let's return back to our keyframe, the very first one that has the arm moving in. Now it wants to move from this initial position into here, so we actually need to have a starting keyframe that's just a few frames before it moving in. So I'm going to choose, in this case, frame number 30 and hit F6 and let that be our starting position. Now we can go through and do our classic tweens between each one of those. So in this case, this will add movement in. And then you can see as it moves here, the arm needs, or the hand needs to be moving upward. Now this is where we can go into our symbol and start editing the individual parts. So with the second keyframe selected, our keyframe on frame 40, we can double click on our mystery arm and go into its symbol. Notice in this symbol on the timeline, there's a line for the hand and a line layer 2 for the arm. Now the arm's not going to move, but the hand is. Before you move your little playhead, let's place a new keyframe at frame number 40. We'll hit F6. Let's also place a keyframe at frame 30 because that was the starting point for the movement of the hand. So we'll hit F6 there. Returning to frame 40, this is where we can select the hand, grab your free transform tool, and let's rotate the hand up and into place as well. So it's going to move from frame 30 stretched out to reaching up from there. So let's add our motion tween for this one as well, classic tween. There, it'll move up. Now let's return back to scene 1. You can see from here, it goes up. So we want it to almost pause just for a little bit and then quickly move up and swipe the ball and move back. So I don't want to do any motion tween from this position. We want it to pause just for a second, just for a beat. So I'm going to go all the way to keyframe number 50. And let's insert a new keyframe there. So with that little pause, let's do a classic tween as it moves up and then swipes the ball. We'll move up to that position and go to there. Now in this position, we can see our hand moves back ever so slightly more. So let's go to our keyframe inside of our arm from this one. So I'll double click on it. As we did before, we need to add a keyframe here. So on frame 58 inside of the arm, add one. But we also need to add a starting keyframe. So back up just a beat, in my case frame 54. Let's change out the position of that. So on frame 58, I select the hand, rotate it back. And now let's do a motion tween or a classic tween between both of those. So as it moves back, it moves up into position there. Let's return back to scene 1. And then it grabs the ball down for this one. On the next one, we can go straight to this position. We'll insert a classic tween for that. Down and grab the ball. Now at this point, the hand needs to change into grabbing the ball. Here's how we're going to do that. Again, let's double click on our mystery hand. And we'll go into its symbol. And at this frame is where we need to swap out the hand. And we don't just want to delete it away. We want to actually swap it to something new. So I'm going to double click on the hand itself. Let's go into its symbol and icon as well. You can see within the hand symbol, there's a symbol for the hand. And there's also a timeline for where it swaps over from the ball to the bomb. And we want to make use of that timeline as well. So without moving your playhead, let's insert a new keyframe inside of the hand layer. From there, I'm going to delete away the hand. And let's insert the mystery arm hand grab symbol. So with this one, it's just simply the hand that's grabbing onto the ball, and we can replace it right where it needs to be on your timeline. You may need to rotate it into place, so I'm going to hit from there. There we go. We'll place it right there. At this time, we also want to add the ball to our mystery hand because he's grabbed onto the ball. To do this, let's go down to our second layer, the one that's below, and let's insert a keyframe there, hit F6, and right inside of this keyframe, let's add the baseball. So select the baseball from your library and drag it on. Let's place that baseball right in the same position that it was with the other hand. That looks good from there. All right, now that we've swapped out the hand and the baseball, let's go back to our mystery arm. And you can see now as it moves down, it grabs the ball. Of course, we need to do a classic tween for this one. So let's do a classic tween. So as it moves down into position from there. From here, let's back out one further to our scene 1 and go to the next keyframe. From here, it should move down and out of the way. So I'm simply going to do a classic tween back into this position. Once it goes back, we want to pause for just a second and then quickly come back with the bomb in hand. So in this case, I'm going to let it pause for just a beat and then maybe choose keyframe 70 because it's a good round number, hit F7, and let's insert a classic tween going from frame 70 to bring back the ball, or in this case, this needs to be the where it swaps up for the bomb. So since the bomb is swapped out by frame 70, this is where we need to change it out for the hand. So let's go back to that keyframe that we created on frame 70. Let's double click on our mystery arm to go into there. And we'll insert a keyframe for it here as well. Hit F7, or excuse me, F6. With that new keyframe selected here, double click on the hand. and we need to insert a new one for this one as well. So let's insert a keyframe F6. This will be on the ball layer. We'll delete it away. Let's insert the bomb into there. Choose the bomb, drag it onto here. Let's move it and place it into place as well. Now, to keep the spark from looking awkward on the hand, I'm also going to rotate it up and out of the way as well. So we'll have it do something like this so that it looks a little bit more correct. With that done, let's go back to our mystery arm, and then we can go back to scene 1. So as it moves in, we want it to also move upward. So on frame 74, let's double click on our mystery arm. This will take us back into its own timeline. Let's insert a keyframe at 74 here and rotate our arm up into position. So choose your free transform tool, move it up. I'm actually going to nudge it kind of into place here. Then let's create a classic tween from frame 70 to 74. So it moves up into position as it's moving. Once that's done, return back to scene 1. Go to the next keyframe where it just simply moves forward and down. So in this case, let's do a classic tween to move forward. But by frame 76, the hand needs to move down. So let's double click on our mystery arm, insert a keyframe there, and then rotate it down and into position for here. And you may need to nudge it to get it in the right spot. If it's off by a little bit, that's okay. Once it's down, we can create our classic tween to move that movement as well. So it moves down and places it. Going back to scene 1. Now this is where he lets go of the arm. We can go ahead and create our classic tween, and then double click on our hand and create a new keyframe here. Hit F6. But at this point, we need to move it back to the hand that's open and starting to move. So let's double click on our arm. Excuse me, I was already there. So let's double click back on. And what we want to do is double click on our hand and have it turn back into there. So going back to the mystery arm hand symbol with its timeline, let's create a new symbol or a new keyframe at frame 78 on the hand layer. With that, we can delete away the closed hand, and we want to be able to place that same open hand. Now we can't simply drag on our mystery arm hand and place it in here because that's the symbol we're working on. So what we want to do is to go back to the first keyframe and select the hand symbol here. Let's copy it. Edit and copy. Now let's jump back to that 78th keyframe, and we can go edit, paste in place, and it will open it up. Also at this time, we need to let go of the bomb, and so we need to turn it off from this hand layer. So going down to the bomb ball layer, let's create one more keyframe, and then delete away the contents of it, so the hand is open and free. We can now go back to our mystery arm layer, and I'm going to kind of rotate it up and into position too. So now we can create a classic tween between both of those. So now as it moves up, and lets go of the bomb. So far so good. Let's return now to scene 1. We can kind of play through and rough out, so you can see it comes in, places the ball, and now it's going to move back and out of the way. So with the hand open, we'll go to the next keyframe. All it's doing is going back down. So let's insert our motion tween or our classic tween between that one to move it down and out of the way with there.